why should marketing professionals care at all about multicultural teams and multicultural management issues? Well, simply put, marketing is a very people-intensive business. And so the success or failure of marketing, whether it's writing ad copy or working in a team to fully understand the way that customer behavior is working, is very much contingent on the success of human interaction. So whether it's at the team level or at the organizational level, the success or failure is often a product of how that human interaction is functioning. Now, when companies succeed or fail, the CEOs typically don't look at human capital problems or human resource issues as kind of driving success or failure. However, we know from decades of research that, in fact, there are huge performance differences between well-functioning teams and poorly functioning teams, and these processes carry over to the organizational level. So, first of all, I'm going to talk some about multicultural teams, and then I'm going to talk about things at the organizational level. So, the interesting thing about multicultural teams is that they have the potential to produce more than a monocultural team, because diversity brings with it the possibility of creativity, because creativity comes from having diverse perspectives. However, what unfortunately often happens is that this creativity becomes lost in the dysfunction that arises when there are process problems in the team or they're poorly managed. What happens, of course, is that you have a bunch of people, obviously in a multicultural team, who are from different cultures. Because people are from different cultures, they come to the team with different norms for teamwork. And what does that mean? Basically, people have different expectations about how things should be done in a team. And these expectations don't match. So basically, everybody thinks things should be done a certain way, and their way of doing things don't agree with each other. Now, the typical advice has been that there should either be a third culture that's developed in this team. So the team should kind of have a process that they develop together, which is kind of new. Or what often happens is that the national culture of the corporate headquarters or wherever this company happens to be located becomes the kind of culture of the group. The problem with both of these approaches is that you have process losses because team members choose not to participate when they're basically forced to operate in another culture. And also we know that people perform worse when they're asked to perform in a way that doesn't conform to their cultural values. And then finally, you lose that creative benefit of having diversity in the team, because now you've forced everybody to act in the same way. And some of these people are acting in a way that's not comfortable for them. Instead, what I recommend, based on previous research that I've done and research that is ongoing, is a more accommodating approach. So we found in a large study with multinational corporations with about 35 multicultural teams that an approach where teams are more flexible and they allow people to have the ability to continue to do certain practices that are culturally based, while the collective understanding of the team is based, the cohesion of the team is based on an understanding of team membership, not necessarily of doing everything the same way. These teams were actually much more creative and had much better outcomes. One of the challenges surrounding culture that I think actually also contributes in some ways, it's kind of complicated, to some of the issues surrounding customer service, although I think that there are some just general basic management problems that and incentivization problems that are contributing there, is the difference between hierarchy, power distance, cultural values, and the egalitarian cultural values of many people who are from the West, and a lack of understanding of this on the part of Western managers or Western corporations who come here to operate. So what does all that gobbledygook mean? basically, if you are from, power distance or hierarchy is a cultural values measure that talks about people's comfort with status differences or their expectations that status differences are appropriate. And without getting into like the fine nitty-gritty details, in general, the West, meaning the US, Canada, all of Western Europe, have egalitarian cultural values, which basically means that these people feel it's kind of appropriate to have equal status. So in a management context, what that means is they will be kind of more direct in communicating with people. If they're on a team, even with their manager, they kind of want to participate with that person and talk to them like they're on the team. They're not going to necessarily defer to them. People from a hierarchical culture, however, will feel that it's more appropriate to have status differences in a society. So they will be comfortable with a very hierarchical organization. Titles will be very important to them. It will be very important for things to follow a certain procedure. And one of the problems that Western managers get into is that if you're managing people from a hierarchical culture, they will not point out when mistakes are happening. They are not going to tell you what their opinion is, just point blank, because that's not culturally appropriate. And it's quite likely that you're not going to get their feedback on different issues unless you have some kind of workaround, because if you are a senior person, it's just not appropriate in that context to offer it. So in general, to wrap up, in an organizational environment, what I see most commonly is that, not surprisingly, despite the fact that people from different cultures, we all look different and speak different languages, managers frequently expect that everyone is going to respond to things in a uniform fashion, and then are somehow surprised when this doesn't happen. It's inconvenient, and I'm sorry, but you have to adapt your management style, maybe at the individual level. Maybe you have to adjust the way in which you deal with employees on an individual level, whether it's, if you're dealing with an employee from a hierarchical culture, you may have to develop a different way to get feedback. But that approach is not going to work with a Western culture person, because they're going to expect direct communication. Or at the organizational level, you may have to adapt the way you do a reward system, because people who expect rewards to be group-based are not going to respond to individual incentives in the same way. So I look forward to discussing these issues more in the panel session, and I thank you for your time.